Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
We're live at the Miami Book Fair, powered by Life Improvement Radio, and you can also check me out at neilhaley.com. And I'm with Eric Remmel of Life Improvement Radio and also Peter Elvidge of the Perseverance Network. And so, very, very interesting story happened, and I'm so glad we're able to make this happen. And this, I guess, goes back to my journalistic push and producer push and all the things I do on a regular basis. I got a pitch from JFK Lancer, and it was very, very interesting because I'm interested in JFK and the assassination and, well, what happens next and all these different things. And luckily enough, what happened is one of the guests that we have on the program is Miami Book Fair. So we're going to take it as the Miami Book Fair, but then we're going to kick it off to promoting what happened at the JFK Lancer. And again, it's a Dallas conference in November, and it's about the assassination of JFK. The big thing now coming up where they're going to release records, so we're going to finally know what really happened. So a lot of interesting things, but we do have an author on the line, and I'm just absolutely excited about this guest. And Eric and Peter, I know you guys are as well. You got to say, Neil, you do some digging up and find some interesting things, don't I? Last minute.
Sure do.
All right, so the program, author of The Ghost, The Secret Life of CIA Spymaster James Jesus Angleton. I'm excited to welcome to the program Jefferson Morley. Jefferson, thanks for calling. And just to kind of put the connection together, you spoke at JFK Lancer on Friday, correct? And that's how I got the connection.
Yes, I did.
Your number. So tell us a little bit about that event, and then we'll go right to Miami. I think that'll put a good connection into our next two guests, Alan Dale and John Newman, who will be coming on later today.
Yeah. So my book, The Ghost, among other things, tells the story of how James Angleton, as chief of counterintelligence for the CIA, opened the CIA's first file on Oswald in November 1959 and monitored and surveilled him for the next 4 years. And this story has not really been told before. And what it tells us is that the story that was given to the American people in the wake of the assassination, that this guy named Oswald kind of came out of nowhere and killed the president, and there's nothing we could have done about it, that was really a cover story to hide the truth that Angleton and his people had been watching Oswald very carefully as he made his way from Moscow to Minsk to Fort Worth to New Orleans to Mexico City and then to Dallas. And in fact, as I show in the book, Angleton was told that Oswald was in Dallas on November 15th, 1963.
Oh, my.
Now, I don't have a theory about that. I'm not offering a conspiracy theory. I think readers have to make up their own mind about its significance. But it is definitely a new fact that's documented and confirmed by declassified records that I found with the help of your next guest, John Newman, who is a friend, and interviews with people who worked with Angleton. So this is a very solid story, and it tells us something really new about the assassination. Not a new theory. These are a new set of facts that make us look at the events of 1963 in a different way.
And this is something, again, I was not born in 1963. I was born in 1973. But I'm absolutely into this and amazing. And what that JFK Lancer event does is you presented about your book, is really go and uncover a lot of the people who were part of the JFK assassination to not conspiracy theories, but theories and different things that could happen. Is that pretty much what the entire 3-day event is?
Yeah, So what Lancer does is, since the big news organizations have really fallen down on the job and they don't like this story, this brings together serious investigators who are working on the story of the assassination, which remains unexplained. We don't have a good explanation of why President Kennedy was killed. And the Lancer Conference brings together the best people in the business who are, really probing and pushing and trying to understand what does new information tell us. So we've got a lot of new files coming out that has started in recent weeks, and there's going to be more in coming weeks. So we're really at a kind of an exciting time in the JFK story where we might finally be able to make a breakthrough through the shroud of secrecy that James Angleton and other people have dropped around the subject and really begin to get at the real causes of the assassination. So it's an exciting time. I give a piece of the story in my book, The Ghost. I work with people like John Newman, former Army intelligence officer, very knowledgeable about how intelligence agencies work, and we're making progress. We're getting towards the truth.
And that's the important thing, is getting towards the truth. And the people who come to this conference, they have, Jefferson, they have pretty much the game plan that they want to know what's finally happening. You know what I mean? Like why?
Yeah. Right. So there's not only the presenting the researchers, but this is also a community of people who care about the issue and get together and say, we need to do something about this. So for me as an author, it's a chance to, promote my book, The Ghost, and talk about it. But it's also a chance to find support in a community of like-minded people who are serious about getting at the truth of the JFK assassination.
And you said that news media doesn't want to cover this. Again, when President Trump decided to say he's going to release certain files, this is when you guys were really intrigued by this, right? To hear that finally they're going to do this. Yeah.
This was not a decision of President Trump. Congress passed a law in 1992 which said all of the government's JFK records have to be made public within 25 years of the enactment of the law. So there was a deadline of October 26, 2017, which President Trump said all the records would be released. At the last minute, the FBI and the CIA got to him and persuaded him not to release all of them.
Oh, no.
So now we're in a situation where only about half of the records that were supposed to be released last month have been made public. So they've really evaded the law, which should tell you something right there. This is suspicious. The law was very clear. The law was passed. Get this, Neil. The law was passed unanimously by Congress. How often does that happen? It was signed into law by the first President Bush, and it was implemented by Bill Clinton. I mean, could there be a more bipartisan, universally agreed upon proposition? It was very clear. And still, the secret agencies got to Trump at the last minute and persuaded him to keep this stuff public. So that was very discouraging. But we do have this consensus of people across the political spectrum. I'm no fan of President Trump, but I have friends who really like him. And the one thing that we can agree on in a very polarized and divided time is these records should be made public. And everybody agrees on that. And still the CIA is playing games and stonewalling. So we need to keep up the pressure. President Trump, as kind of a compromise, gave them another 6 months to make this stuff public. So we've got another deadline coming up in April 2018. And hopefully we will get everything at that point. So, but it's a struggle. And the mainstream media, they're uncomfortable with this story. They don't want to be tagged as conspiracy theorists, and the whole subject kind of makes them uncomfortable because they really haven't done a good job of explaining the assassination story. So it's really up to the average citizens who gather at places like JFK Lancer to say, we want this stuff, we want to know the truth, and we're going to get it.
Awesome, and that's the excitement of this in this interview for sure. And let's go to Eric. I know, Eric, I think this is something that fascinates you as well, the JFK assassination, doesn't it?
It does, and the ironic part is I'm just thinking in my mind here and kind of like laughing, chuckling to myself as you guys were talking, all these, years of speculation, jokes, comments, and all kinds of conjecture and stuff. Maybe we'll finally all come to a close and a conclusion, and someone that we can all move on, because I know it's been a point of contention for a lot of people for a lot of years.
Yes, it has, and this is the promise of full disclosure, is that put everything on the table and let's get the story out there. There might have been reasons a long time ago to hide CIA operations or CIA malfeasance in the case of President Kennedy's. But it's 54 years ago. It's like what matters now. The most important thing now is the truth, and the fact that the CIA is still playing games is discouraging. But what is encouraging is, like my book, The Ghost, tells a new part of the story, something that we didn't know before. New information is still coming out there. There's a lot of stupid theorizing. If you're interested in conspiracy theories, don't read my book. If you're interested in the facts of what happened to President Kennedy, my book's got new facts.
Okay. All right. So let's go, Peter, with the question. Go ahead, Peter, with the question for Jefferson.
Well, yeah. So I have actually two questions. The first one is, I've heard about these new facts and these new documents being released. Obviously, I kind of figured that all of them weren't going to be released, to be honest, but that's just who I am. But I'm interested in the new facts that are out there, but also I heard, and I can't confirm this as being reliable at all, but I heard that if certain documents were released on the JFK assassination, that it would be a risk to our national security. Is that something a valid point, or is that just kind of something that people are thinking about?
That was the argument that the CIA gave to President Trump last month, and it is most assuredly bogus. There's no threat to national security in these records. The CIA said that the names of living agents and sources might be threatened. Okay, so there may be a couple of names like that, in which case nobody has any objection to them being withheld. But they kept back probably 20,000 different documents. There's not 20,000 live agents in those documents. So the argument that releasing this material will threaten national security is bogus. And anybody who knows the subject knows that it's bogus. And it's unfortunate that President Trump, gave that argument any credence. That's it's just not the case.
Wow. Okay. This is so fascinating for sure. And I want to get to the book.
Yeah.
We have you to about 2:15, 2:20, and then we're going to be jumping into Alan Dale and John Newman. But I could talk to you for a bunch of time, and I know you're exhausted from Miami and the different things. But let's kind of go last point about the conspiracy, and then to your book, because I would love to read it for sure. To learn all about Lee Harvey Oswald, and to learn about specifically James Jesus Angleton and how he went and tracked him down. So let's kind of jump right into specifically the last point with involving this JFK Lancer is your ultimate hope is release the files so that we finally close the book on the conspiracy. Wouldn't you agree with me? Would you say that's it, Jeff?
Yeah. And I don't prejudge what's in these records. It may surprise us. It may be something that was perfectly obvious. It may confirm that there was a conspiracy. It may identify people involved. But whatever it is, we need to have the truth. There's part of the historical question, was there a conspiracy to kill President Kennedy? That's very interesting. It's a fascinating story, and everybody agrees it's important. But there's also the story of today, which is the CIA going to obey the law? We have this very clear law. And so there's both a historical question and a contemporary question, which is very important for our democracy, which is, can we control this secret agency and make it obey the will of the people? So it's a very fascinating subject, and it's also politically important today.
All right, so let's go to the ghosts. Peter, go ahead. You want one more question on JFK, and we want to really promote the ghosts, but go ahead, one more question.
Yeah, it's just a quick one. I was thinking about this too. Let's say hypothetically, is some sort of a major conspiracy that comes out in the documents and pieces are put together. Would you say that there's a possibility of a lot of, the people of America losing hope or losing the trust of the American government, of presidents and, secret services and things like that?
Well, I think that people lose trust in the government when they feel they're being lied to and when secrecy is used to hide things. So I think that if the government comes clean and tells this story, it will show that the government is willing to hold itself accountable. So I think that full disclosure will actually increase confidence in government. It might be a shocking and disturbing story, but at least we're facing it honestly, and our political system worked. The people want this material out, and if it comes out, I think that will restore confidence in the government, even though the story may be upsetting. Remember, this happened a long time ago, so we don't need to. It's to implicate anybody who's living today, you know. And so what matters is the notion that our government is under control of the people and under control of laws. And right now, we can't say that with any confidence, and that's what undermines people's confidence in government. They think, the secret agency, the CIA, they're pulling a fast one on us. And when you feel that way, you just think, oh God, there's nothing I can do. They're all powerful. It encourages people to be paranoid. Full disclosure is the answer to that. Full disclosure will increase confidence in government. So that's what I think.
All right, so let's jump to the ghost now. As I was saying before, this is a very, very, very interesting story because the backstory of James Jesus Angleton and also Lee Harvey Oswald, because a lot of people just know about Lee Harvey Oswald for one reason, right? Right, Jefferson, right. Nothing else. That just part of the whole conspiracy, and that nothing else. We don't really know the backstory on all this.
Right.
So
James Angleton. So James Angleton was a leading senior official at the CIA, one of the most powerful men in the CIA from 1947 to 1974. And I tell his life story in The Ghost, from a precocious young graduate of Yale to one of the most powerful, if unknown, people in the U.S. government. And the story of how he came to monitor Lee Harvey Oswald is just one aspect of a wide-ranging career where he exercised influence over a number of U.S. policies in all different areas. So he was a very powerful and sometimes sinister man, and his role in the JFK story has never been told before. So the story I present in The Ghost really lays out a set of new facts that people need to know as they try to understand, why President Kennedy was killed. So The Ghost is a contribution towards that end. It's also a fascinating, fast-moving portrait of a very interesting man. You might not always like him, but he's always interesting. So one of America's premier spies was James Angleton, and this is his life story told for the first time.
This is fabulous. And Eric, question. Yeah. I know you remember all the interviews of the Miami Book Fair. History is something you really enjoy, Eric, isn't it? That you like?
For sure. Definitely. And then, I grew up in a generation where, we were mesmerized by the JFK story, and there was so many movies and books and TV shows and, articles and things over the years that people with speculation and all these ideas what actually happened. So I think it's really interesting to have this document or many of these documents come forward and be able to see, the truth behind what really happened and put a lot of the speculation to rest.
Yeah, and it's important to note it's the secrecy around the subject that has bred the speculation. Because of secrecy, you don't know exactly what happened, and so you have to guess. And so people have guessed, and they've, concocted conspiracy theories, many of which are ridiculous, some of which are quite plausible. And, what I'm trying to do, and John Newman, your next guest, is, sift through this and get to the information that's really solid and not speculate, not guess about what happened, but to say, look, this is really what happened, and we're trying to get the rest of the story. So as these records come out, a lot of us are hopeful that we will finally get the rest of the story, but we do have to overcome this CIA secrecy.
Now, with Lee Harvey Oswald, when you were talking about how James was tracking him down and stuff, Lee Harvey Oswald, was he someone that people just said, oh my gosh, this guy is bad news? Or did the CIA just not do the right job tracking him to end up having that happen?
Well, it's a complicated story, but the reason they were interested in him was they wanted to use him for intelligence purposes. And as I show in The Ghost, they did use him for intelligence purposes, not necessarily to advance a conspiracy to kill the president, but they used him to collect information on the Soviet Union, Cuba, America's enemies at the time. And so this is why he was of interest, and this is why Angleton and others hid the story from all of the investigations of Oswald. So, was somebody in the CIA manipulating Oswald to advance an assassination conspiracy? We don't have proof of that yet, but we're gaining a lot of circumstantial evidence that he was manipulated by the CIA, and that might have been part of an assassination conspiracy. This is why we need the rest of the records, because we don't want to speculate anymore. We don't want to guess. We don't want to develop some crazy theory that somebody can talk about on the internet. We want the real story, and we're close to getting it.
Wow. I tell you what, and so when you're talking about that, so just this is why this book is so interesting, and this is why you as an expert going to travel to Miami to talk about this is so fascinating, because you really are giving some ideas that just aren't coming out, right? Especially about Lee Harvey Oswald James.
Yeah. The big news organizations don't understand this story. That they're afraid of being labeled conspiracy theorists, because there are a lot of stupid JFK conspiracy theories out there, and they're ridiculous, and they're not founded in fact. But this is this is a story that is of tremendous interest to the American public. I mean, you guys are talking about it. This is getting lots of coverage in the press. People want to know. People really want to know, and we're getting there.
All right. Well, fantastic. And where is the best place we can purchase your book and learn more about you? Where can we go?
The Ghost is available on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble. It's available here in Miami at Books and Books, a big independent bookstore here. It's widely available. Just look for The Ghost, The Secret Life of James Jesus Angleton, and you will be enlightened about the JFK story. I guarantee it.
All right. Well, looking forward to continuing talking about JFK Lancer. We're going to close out the Miami Book Fair. You were the last author from this crazy day from 9 to 2:16, but I appreciate you coming by, Jefferson. I'm glad we grabbed you, and you have a fascinating account of everything, and we're going to look forward to see when these files will be released. So thanks again for calling.
Thank you, Neil.
All right, take care. Thanks, guys. Okay, bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show, powered by Life Improvement Radio, live from the Miami Book Fair. And thanks for listening. But we have a special guest to promote JFK Lancer before our live broadcast is over. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.